In the late 70s, gay men in the San Francisco Bay Area who were typically masculine presenting, stocky, and hairy met informally at bars and parties. These men began to be known and later self-identify as bears. The men remained in a somewhat secluded group until their status was formalized and celebrated with the founding of Bear magazine in 1987.
Since then, bear communities and clubs have spread all over the world. Bear clubs often serve as social and sexual networks for their members who contribute to their local gay communities through fundraising and other functions. Bear events have become very common, and we are fortunate enough in El Paso to have Los Chuco Bears.
Look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife.
Our guests today are Christian Ivan and Ivan Torres of Los Chuco Bears. Christian is the president of Los Chuco Bears, and Ivan serves as their secretary. So, gentlemen, Bears, welcome to Queer Onda El Paso.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
To begin, let's just get a little bit familiar about you all individually. Christian, tell me about your story. How did you come out, and how did you learn about the bear community, and what drew you to it?
All right. Well, again, thank you so much for having us on this platform. Again, my name is Christian Gonzalez. I'm the president for Chuco Bears here in El Paso, Texas. My story goes back all the way to, I want to say, early 2000s. That's when I started to come out of my shell. I'll be honest, I was a late bloomer. I didn't really come out until, I want to say, I was 21 years old. And I started, obviously going to the new OP, which I heard about the old OP, but I never went to that one, of course, but I went to the OP. And
okay, this interview's over.
I started to...
Whippersnapper.
Yeah. No, and at that time, I was still obviously getting to know a lot of, some of my high school friends. I'm like, hey, you're also out here, so I started feeling more included because I could share my personal experiences with them. Throughout there, of course, as I started to grow up, I started to be more attracted to, the bearded, thicker type of fluffier, furry kind of guys, and it just became...
Oh, wait, yes, we do.
Yeah, and it just became a fetish of mine, to be honest. I was more attracted to, the facial hair, and as I was starting to familiarize myself with bear culture, I found out that obviously it was also somehow a part of leather fetishes as well, and everything just went through that spectrum that I was just very, very curious at a young age to start exploring those venues. So as I grew up, we started a couple of other bear groups before that. I believe one of them was the Bear Society a couple of years ago, and then after that, now we transitioned to the Chuco Bears here locally. So
I love that, and it's also very unique to El Paso, and I think that's really great. My own bear coming out is my teddy bear when I was 3. No. I'll tell my story in a minute. Ivan, tell us yours. How did you come out, and how did you learn about the bear community, and what drew you to it?
Okay, very good. Basically, it's similar to Christian. Around the same time, I did not come out at a very young age because there was still a lot of that sort of reticence to accept oneself. In the early 2000s, I think I came out when I was 22. That's when everything kind of started making sense to me, and that's when I realized, okay, yeah, there's all these things that I like, that are not traditional, I'm not attracted to this type of person or whatever. I initially started being attracted to what the media would portray, the Calvin Klein models, very perfect, muscular type of men. But curiously enough, what the turning point for me was I started getting more attention from the other side of the spectrum, the chubby guys, and I actually started meeting more older people. It was people my age. I mean, they didn't have it together, and they still don't have it together right now. But back then, I was kind of more drawn to that sort of maturity, that sort of paternal aspect, even, of people kind of paying very good attention to me, being polite, treating me in a way that I had never been treated before. And most of them were older gentlemen, and most of them fit the bear profile. Another turning point for me in terms of this bear community exposure that I had was I took a trip to Mexico City in 2008. And around that time, the bear culture was already in full swing in Mexico City. I actually stepped out of the airplane, went straight to a bear bar in Mexico City, and it was like super eye opening for me because everybody was like so comfortable and everybody was so welcoming, and I was just like, oh my God, why can't we have that back home? You know, I don't think that I mentioned, but I was living in Juarez around this time. So when I came back from Mexico City, I was like, I kind of started exploring, you know, like what is out there, you know, for people who have that sort of attraction that I have. And there were a couple of bear groups that I belonged to over there, but they kind of like fizzled out at some point, you know. And then after that, in 2009, that's when I relocated to El Paso. And there for a while, I mean, I wasn't involved in any sort of group up until, like, you know, I started, you know, meeting people and stuff. And actually, I didn't belong to any of the groups that existed before. There was a group that was created by an ex-boyfriend of mine that was here in El Paso, but that didn't take off at all. I mean, it was only there for a while, but it was part of, you know, I was one of the youngest ones back then. You know, most everybody was already like 40 and up. Right. And now, you know, with the Chuco Bears, I relocated to Brownsville, Texas during the pandemic back in 2020. And when I came back, I found out, you know, I stayed in touch with Christian, I mean, because we've known each other forever. And then I knew that they had founded the Chuco Bears in 2021. And that's kind of how I kind of worked into the group. And first as a member, you know, and now starting this year as a secretary. So it's been quite an interesting experience, you know, finding all these different types of, you know, perspectives and points of view of, like, you know, what the bear culture is, you know, the differences between, you know, stuff that happens south of the border in Mexico and Juarez, you know.
That's an interesting point. How is that different? Does Los Osos de Mexico, are they a little bit different than the ones here? Or there's probably a commonality at some point.
Yeah, the commonality is basically, you know, the appreciation for this type of man, you know, that, you know, like Christian said, you know, is very masculine, is very burly, is very, like, you know, that sort of protector aspect of it. There's also a lot of pageantry over there. I think that that's most of what people associate it with, you know, like the promotion or the spectacle, if you will. You know, there's a lot of like pageantry and a lot of contests and stuff like that. But I think that the common ground is like that appreciation for, you know, like the masculinity, the sort of paternal, you know, the daddy type of aspect.
You know, and honestly, you know, you're talking to fans around this table because Ceci, our cisgendered, you know, heterosexual woman, also is a bear lover.
Oh, wow.
So that one of the things that we learned very quickly is that we had the same Facebook man.
Oh, yes.
And Izzy, ever since, as long as I know him, has always been somewhat attracted to
Oh, yes. Give me a chubby daddy
And
with a beard. Yes,
I prefer a daddy with a chubby.
Well, in that case, I agree with you.
Disclaimer: I am married, but no disrespect to my husband. But that brings to mind something. You know, Ivan, you talked about this, and Christian told me about when you first came out as well. There was a time, I mean, going back into the history of kind of the gay culture, you know, there used to be just gay and straight,
right,
you know, and then we made progress, particularly in the metroplexes of New York and San Francisco. And then we realized, wow, we're a big enough group to where we can have these subgroups. And so we have all these different interests. And so things started to kind of evolve from there. But still, the one stereotype persisted, and that was, you know, honestly, white gym bunnies, you know, that were, you know, kind of ultra sexualized. That was kind of the ideal gay image, and all of them were very body conscious. All of them were very, you know, kind of or you
and also, interior designers. I remember.
You had that, or you also had like the somewhat more effeminate twinks that were very slender. There was not really a lot of space for anybody with a little meat on their bones, or that didn't care to go to a gym, or that wasn't a hairdresser or a florist or whatever you may say, or maybe they were. But my point is that when I was coming out, I always thought to myself, I'm not that kind of gay. You know, I'm not attracted to that. And I remember in my childhood being attracted to men, that were burly and that were masculine and that were, there was something more than anything. It was like there was something about them, their energy that I liked, and that I think you said it, that idea of kind of safety. And especially when you're young and coming out, that becomes important.
Absolutely. The term, when Ivan was talking, the term daddy came to mind. Right away.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, so we've kind of evolved from there. And so I find that to be part of the bear community, one doesn't even have to be a bear. Really, it's just you can be a bear lover or a chubby chaser or however we want to look at it. And so it is kind of a very more welcoming community in terms of the subsets of communities in the gay world. And so tell me about your experiences in terms of the people that you've met in the bear community. And have you ever met anybody that, kind of just doesn't get it? And it just says, oh my God.
I'm glad you mentioned that. We have and will probably continue to still meet some of those individuals that still don't get it, and it's okay. That's the reason why we exist, because we tell them it's okay. At least from Chuco Bear standpoint, we don't turn away individuals that don't identify or just don't get it. We just let them be. And they're all invited to our events regardless if you're a member or not, or if you're a bear or not. And part of that reason is things are changing so fast, like we were mentioning earlier. There's social media, politics, everything that unfortunately we can't center around just one bear body type. So with that being said, we've met a lot of individuals with different personalities, different backgrounds, and we put all issues aside so that way we can feel comfortable around each other socially.
That's good.
That chemistry that we get from our leadership, as far as our mission is to definitely build that environment of safety, belonging, whether it's someone that's actually thin and hairy or just a twink. And I'm glad you mentioned twinks, because there's a lot of them that are admirers. They call themselves admirers.
Right.
So they'll attend because they are going to go see, that's where we're at. They go to our gear nights. So now I see a lot of them wearing the little pup masks and the little harnesses, and they have some nice thin little bodies, but they feel comfortable around us.
Right, and they're also probably attracted to the group, to that energy.
You have groupies. That's cool.
I built my career on it when I was young. Let me tell you that. Chubby chaser, I had a line for it.
I was definitely called a chubby chaser. One too many times by my friends.
So how did you all get involved with Los Chuco Bears? How did the organization start, and how did you all get involved in actually, to become leadership of the group?
Right. To be honest, it's one of the characteristics, at least starting with me individually as a leader. I've always been the type to want to help others, serve my community. I can honestly tell you that I came with a background where that example was set through my parents, where I'm here to serve others as well, as much as I can, starting with my community. So I told myself, what is it that I can do for others that maybe we can all grow from together? After the pandemic hit, of course, I felt that there was a lot of different, the bars were still barely opening up again. There was a lot of uncertainty in so many aspects, and a lot of the bears, we just started getting together little by little. It was called Taco Tuesdays. So little by little,
of course.
I'm not gonna lie, bears love to eat.
That's the other thing.
Whenever we have food around, it started from a Taco Tuesday, and these guys were like, you know what, let's put a team together. And I said, really, you guys really want to put a team together? All right, let's do this. So after COVID was already kind of still in its end phase in 2021, started Taco Tuesdays, and our group grew maybe by like 10-15 people at the most. So then little by little we decided to just create a name. And we started with our basic structure of our 10 guidelines. And they said, okay, if we're going to do this is going to be legit. We're going to be helping our community. We're not just going to be a partying scene, because that's another thing that can also be misconstrued, is that it's just a partying thing, and it really isn't. There's just so much more to bear culture than meets the eye, you know, and it goes as far as one wants to believe or one wants to know. And when one wants to really get in depth to get to know Chuco Bears, there's a lot of talent. There's a lot of people that actually love serving and helping. You know, I can just give you another example that we just finished one of our veterans food drives in November. So we'll do that for our Elks Lodge on the east side. I mean, we don't really manage large quantities of money and large quantities of people like people might think, but we can move mountains together with the right mindset, with the people that we have. And besides that, I mean, our members, again, little by little, they start to recognize that servitude approach, and we start to see who's pretty much skilled in what they want to contribute. And that's how it just multiplies, you know. So again, it's not just the bear in itself, it's more of a community that our goal is to bring together.
It sounds like a brotherhood of sorts, a
Absolutely.
very fraternal type organization. Ivan, what about your experience with the group when you started to get involved? What made you decide to actually become an officer in the group and to become the secretary? What drew you to that?
I was coming back from, my experience in Brownsville was not very good because I moved over there in the middle of a pandemic. I did not know anybody, so I was just pretty much isolated for the full 2.5 years that I was there. Once the pandemic kind of started receding, I was kind of like always in touch with them. And when I relocated back in 2022, I started going out with them, and I was like, because you have the bear group going on, and at first I was a little bit shy, because I was like, I haven't gone out in such a long time. I mean, I've never been like a party person, I do go out, but there have been a couple of years that had gone by that I was just like, no, I mean, it's the party scene is not my thing. So then I kind of started going out, and going to a couple of the events, and then I would see like, the guys in harnesses and, with all these things. And I think I did go to the first, the first Mr. Bear pageant, I think that they had. Mm-hmm. And I was there and I was like, ooh, these guys are all open and they're all like, taking their shirts off and stuff. And I actually tell people, that I became more, more exhibitionist, I guess, ever since I joined the bear group. Because
for those of you listening at home, Ivan's currently naked.
It's a party positivity.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to ask about that because that's what in watching. We watched a documentary on it, and I love the message of body positivity.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. So tell us about that too.
Ivan touched base on it really well. Majority of the larger aspect of our events are usually like the gear nights. We have Beartopia, which is our bear pride coming up in September. Oh. So the gear nights, the jocks and socks, these are like usually the high level events where you get to see majority of our members shirtless in shorts or shirtless in jock straps, and they're happy. They feel comfortable around their skin with each other.
Right.
These venues, we're very fortunate to say that the venues have opened their doors for us and they're very supportive. And on top of that, one of our members literally commented and said, thank you for bringing these big city vibes here.
Right.
So that was like the big takeaway for us. I'm like, wow, big city vibes. That was like, the bread and butter for me, because just like Ivan mentioned, he went to a big city in Mexico where he saw it all. I had been to Dallas with like the Texas Bear Roundup and Phoenix with the Bears of the West, with Fur Fest. So I'm like, why can't we have something like this here in El Paso? And those were like my hooks to like bring in that kind of inclusivity here, and it's worked for us really, really well. It's enjoyable, it gets a little crazy, but people feel very, very, very comfortable around their skin.
That's awesome. I want to go to one of those. Tell us, what events do you have? I mean, tell us about the events.
We do have several events, not just social. Of course, we do have community events as well. Just recently, about a week ago, we had our coffee, Bears and Coffee. So that was one of the new ones that's kind of starting. So we just started at a Starbucks. So it was a table with like about 10 of us at the table, and you get to conversate just like we are now.
Right.
Mine is the loud music, mine is the drinks, mine is the gear and the harnesses. So different bears go to different venues. So obviously we want to offer that opportunity for those that, I have some members that are very, how can I say, sensitive to ear or sensitive to big crowds, and that's okay. So that's why we'll make someone like the pizza nights. We're going to have a pizza night coming up in April. And of course, one of the other bigger community initiatives that we have, we like to network with some of our external partners outside of El Paso, like the Rio Grande Valley Bears, for example. And they'll bring in an event, and we'll just spread the love here, and we just help promote it for them. So these are the types of events that more community, social, and then of course when we get to more, of the partying scene, I guess you could say, we have Mr. Beartopia. So you have contestants that'll do, either part of the pageant in gear for what the theme is of Mr. Beartopia. This year we have the hoedown, so it's going to be
cowboy themed.
Oh, that's right.
Emphasis on the hoe.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, last year's was the uniform.
Men in uniform.
Oh, yeah.
Who doesn't love a man in uniform, right?
No, I'm a fan.
Yeah.
Right here.
Ever since the milkman.
Right? Yep. And the crossing guard.
Right?
It
doesn't take much. A little sash and I'm down.
A badge.
And I'm glad you mentioned Sash, because this coming Friday, we've inspired some of our members within our community to have their own celebrations. Mr. Beartopia obviously is going to be attending the San Antonio Sash Social in San Antonio, Texas. So what's going on over there is that a lot of the guys with sashes throughout the state of Texas are forming their own subculture right now as we speak, because these guys now have sashes. Mr. TBRU is going to be attending, Mr. Texas Leather, Mr. Bertoldi from El Paso. So they're going to be now want to conversate amongst the guys with sashes. I'm like, what about us little people? But I mean, it's great because these individuals help us network the groups together.
Right.
So wherever we send Mr. Bertopia, he's going to bring some people with him, if that makes sense.
And represent.
And it puts El Paso more on the map. That's our goal.
Well, it seems to me like back in the day, like I said, back in about, I want to say 1991 or sometime around there, some friends of mine were starting a bear group here in El Paso. And there was probably about, I don't know, 4 or 5 of us. And I went to one meeting and back then, like I said, we were still pretty much not as visible as we are now, and it's not as mainstream as we are now. But then you realize that just because one is either identifies as masculine, I mean, I guess that's a relative term, has a beard or is, chubby or not, or muscular or whatever.
Or a suit.
Yeah, I mean, it is such a broad net to cast.
Yes.
And so here we have, I've been called standing at 5'2.5", a pocket bear.
I've been called an otter.
An otter, yeah.
Exactly.
And then you have, your muscle bears, and you have your, your grizzly bears, and it goes on and on and on. What is it about us, the gay community in general? I mean, I would just like to hear some opinions about why do we feel the need to categorize, but at the same time, we don't draw boundaries. We don't say, oh, you can't join us because you're not this. No, it's not that at all. What do you think it is that we want to do we want to self-identify, or what is it that we want to categorize here? What is your opinion?
Label.
Yeah.
I think it all comes with self-awareness. A lot of it keeps coming with how aware the individual is and how they want to express themselves.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I think we are all very free to express ourselves, not just how we identify, but also, sex positive is coming very, very strong, especially now with the political climate. So I want to be known as, personally as an individual, I say, you know what, I want to inspire that I'm very comfortable in my skin. Shirt on or shirt off, I'm very comfortable around that. And I think that's where it comes for a lot of individuals, whether they are twinks or otters or, silver daddies or the
Polar bears.
Polar bears, and then you have your, there's so many, the muscle bears, and I can go on.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and now I guess now there's feeders. Have you guys heard about feeders?
No. What is that?
So these feeders are the ones that choose their bear and they feed them food as a fetish, and the guy keeps putting on some weight as a fetish. They love that.
Feeders and gainers. Like the recipient would be the gainer. So.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. I need to have a conversation with my husband. Right? Maybe that's something we can work out.
Maybe you can go from pocket bear to gainer. I don't know. But going a little bit into what Christian said right now, into what you were saying about, you know, the black and white, you know, because at first I used to think, like, and this was my own personal perception, it was very black and white. Like, either you're a bear or you're not, you know. And in my case, you know, and I've told Christian, and I think we've had conversations with together and separately, that I sometimes feel like I don't fit in because, I mean, yes, I may have like the traditional or typical attributes that a bear has, but I'm more into like fashion.
Right.
So, you know, I'm kind of like, okay, walking into this scene, you know, in which bears are very laid back, you know, they're very casual, they're beer drinkers, they like their food and stuff. And I'm kind of like into other things, you know, I'm more into like accessories and sunglasses and whatnot, you know, any kind of accessory you can give me, I pile it on and I'll wear it, you know. So I'm kind of like, you know, the bear culture does not necessarily have that. So, but I still feel very drawn to it, you know.
Right.
So there's a lot more gray area now, you know, and especially like in more recent times, because I think that with social media, with, you know, more communication, with more venues, you know, to express yourself, I think it avails people to be like, yes, I may not look like a bear, but I feel drawn to them, you know. Right. I feel drawn to the community. I feel drawn to the inclusivity because, you know, at our events, you know, like Christian said, you see everything, you know, and that was one of the things that also helped me with my confidence, you know, because I was like, I would never in my early 20s think of taking my shirt off anywhere, you know, aside from the privacy of my own home. But then, you know, you start going to these events and you kind of get that sort of rush, you know, like that contact rush from like, okay, yeah, you know, here's this guy who's like big, he's burly, you know, and he's like owning it,
okay,
you know, and it's okay, you know. So I don't do it all the time, you know, but when the vibe is right, it's like, why not, you know, and you know that you're in a comfortable place where you're not going to be like looked at weird, or you're not going to be judged, you know, even though there are some people that are not part of the events. Like sometimes, I mean, the events are open to the public. They're not like private events, but, you know, you still own it and you're like, you know, this is who I am and this is how I feel comfortable, you know? So that's kind of like from my experience, you know, like I sometimes felt that I didn't belong, but kind of like these sort of environments, you know, make it possible for you to express yourself exactly how you are.
Right. And I find that the bear communities, you know, I mean, it's hard to speak in very large, you know, generalizations. But by and large, I mean, there was a time, particularly in the 80s and 90s, where, I mean, there was a lot of backbiting and kind of criticizing within the gay community, and the bears always seemed a little bit more relaxed about those sort of things. And so that wasn't the focus. It was more like, oh, whatever, and let people do whatever they want. Interestingly enough, Ivan, I had a similar experience in that while I was always, you know, attracted to bears, I didn't find my place in the bear community, mostly because, you know, I'm somewhat bookish, a little bit of a preppy, and I like to dress up and I like to do other things. And when you go to a bear bar, you know, none of that presents itself. It's like, you know, I remember that we would have, you know, denim and you couldn't wear any shirts, you know, and that sort of thing. And so it's hard to, you know, kind of to find your place, your little place of what really represents your life and what you bring to the table. And then many years later, after not kind of really fitting in, I felt, but I identified in the bear community, but I didn't really feel like I fit in, like you were saying. You know, I met a gentleman who wrote for The Advocate, and he was a beautiful bear. I mean, just the perfect example of a bear. If you want to cover for Bear Magazine, he was the guy. He was the one. But so stylish and so smart and so intellectual. And, you know, and it just, meeting that one person made me realize it's like, we're doing it to ourselves. Exactly. We put these chains on our minds and say, this is what it is. If I want to be a bear, I have to be like this. And it's the other way around. I am what I am, and there's a place for me in the bear community. Right. Right. So, I mean, that's why I think these groups are extremely important. And I find that social media makes that even easier. So what kind of social media traction do you all get? And do you all coincidentally get any bad comments, any kind of negative, kind of stories from your social media presence as Los Chuco Bears?
We do have several platforms. Obviously, the big one, Facebook, Instagram. We have several chats as well to engage more like on a daily basis. We say good morning to our members, just find the reminders for our events, things of that nature. We also have external chats for like maybe members that come from outside of El Paso, usually to like our bigger events like in Beartopia. So for that event, we like to target like the audience that's obviously not here in El Paso. So we opened up a Blue Sky account. A Blue Sky recently, which is pretty much trending very high right now with the bear culture.
Yeah, well, I think the LGBTQ
a lot.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of like a haven from X.
Stepping away from X and all the...
So that's what we're looking at into too. Is one of our next episodes will be on social media usage. But yes, absolutely. And so that's interesting that the Bears are gravitating towards that platform.
Oh, absolutely. And then on the opposite side, we have had, those feedback situations where it's not always going to be, rainbows and sunshines, to be honest. And those are the learning points and takeaways for us as leaders.
Right.
So one of the ones that I can honestly just at the top of my mind remind is that we're not as inclusive as we say we are. So the inclusivity part, again, going back to the inclusivity, the word inclusivity is very, very broad as well on its own.
Yeah, it's hard to... Yes, right. Good point.
It's like when you make the best party in the world, but you're always going to have that one individual, well, it could have been this way, or you could have done this. So our goal is to include, but ultimately our main goal is, obviously we can't be the, how can I say?
As somebody who's organized a lot of things in this community, one of the standard answers to that I always say is, well, if you want to see a change, get involved.
Exactly.
Get involved, yeah.
Well, and the other thing too is that inclusivity almost puts the responsibility on other people.
Yes.
It's what you bring to the table too.
Exactly.
So like I was saying, that's what I learned through my experience. It's like, I learned that, as I present myself as I am, people will by and large accept that. Particularly a group that's whole kind of culture is into acceptance. If you purposely say, well, you didn't include me as well,
what did you do to be part of the
please get down off your high chair and join the conversation.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I kind of keep repeating whenever we have conversations about what could we have done better, or how can we face this challenge, with like people or detractors or whatever, and one of the things that I always like to say is like, you can't be all things to all people, right? Going back to what you were saying right now, there are a lot of expectations or like things that people come in with, like for example, oh, I'm not bare enough, or oh, they're not going to look at me because I don't look a certain way, or I don't behave, I don't take off my shirt or whatever, and that kind of like excludes me. You're excluding yourself, and you always, it's with any social group in the history of humanity, I think that people bring in strengths and weaknesses, and you basically, as the group, and Christian can correct me if I'm wrong, as a group like Los Chuco Bears, we basically present to you the possibility for you to engage, for you to belong, for you to participate. If you have any reservation or if you have any suggestions, they're always welcome. We're always looking for growth opportunities for learning, like the coffee and the Bears and Coffee nights. So we can at least say we tried. We tried doing this, and let's see what response we have. Negative feedback, positive feedback, we take it all in and try to apply it, to something that is going to be better for the next time that we do it, But going back to that, I think it has a lot to do with like, people, it's very hard to please everybody all the time, So a lot of it has to do with mostly like, the individuals coming in and being open, not just sitting there on a corner waiting for us to go and like engage with them,
Right. Expectations have a lot to do with it, but again, it's just what you bring to the table, how you present yourself, and we ultimately, I guess everybody's looking for a sense of belonging,
right?
And I think that the bear groups, the ones that I've been familiar with, are for the most part very welcoming. But you're always going to have individual experiences. It's what who you meet at the time and how they react to you, and so the organization itself cannot take on that responsibility. You all just are providing all the tools and all the opportunities for people to to express themselves.
Exactly.
You've got an environment and a platform. Here it is. Now you make the most of it.
Right. And if I may add to that, like that's one of the things that I used to think that I was thinking about, because when I used to be like in the first bear groups, I was one of the younger ones. So I kind of did go in with that expectation of like, ooh, you know, I want these guys to like tell me what to do, or I'm expecting them to kind of like guide me, you know. And I was fortunate enough to have like very positive interactions and very positive experiences with the bears that I met back then, you know, which were like the age that I'm at right now.
Right.
So now that I'm in my early 40s, I'm like, okay, what can I do to kind of like receive or like admit all these like newer faces, you know, or like these people that have like this curiosity. And I kind of took that, I kind of engaged a couple of the members, you know, that were kind of like the younger members of the group now. And I kind of was like, you know, their dad in a sense, you know, and like kind of like guiding them through this kind of like experience, you know. And I think that it's very rewarding, because it's like now I can be that welcoming face, you know. Now I can have that sort of welcoming interaction with people that might feel like I felt before, you know, like I don't know where to go, I don't know what to do, you know. But it's surprising. I mean, these guys caught on like really quickly, you know. They even were more into it than I was, because they were, of course, members before me. But now, you know, it's like generations now are a lot more, what I see is like they're more comfortable with themselves. They come with like their confidence like right off the bat, unlike some of us, you know, who grew up in a different decade, you know, that were still like, I don't look like Marky Mark on the Calvin Klein ad, you know. I don't know if people are gonna accept me or take me seriously because I don't have like a ripped body. But now these guys, they're like super confident. They're very, you know, they know what they want, they know what to expect, and all you can do is just kind of take away from that and just kind of grow and see where it takes us together, you know, within the group.
Well, and then historically, like I was saying, back in the day in the 70s and stuff, where, you know, gay men were stereotyped as a certain way, and the Bears didn't fit into that, and they created their own culture, and now we are where we are today. Even more so outside of the gay community, now bears have become mainstream. I mean, you have straight people talking about bears, or, you know, a woman saying, oh, well, my husband's just a bear, you know, he's a bear, or he identifies as a bear, which I think is super sweet. I think that's really cool. And I think that kind of, again, helps with body positivity and changing people's perceptions that, you know what, you know, advertising doesn't dictate what I find sexy. And so a lot of times there are men that are extremely attractive that have some weight on them, or they're a little bit older, or that are, you know, bearded or whatever, that don't fit into that mold. So we gave rise to the dad bod craze. It was after a dad bod thing. And I was like, well, honey, it's about time you joined the party. Look
at where we're missing out.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's really interesting. But then, okay, so now let's contrast that to almost everything. I mean, even just by default, my social media feed is just nothing but super overdeveloped hot guys that probably take a shit ton of steroids, and they're just, all they want to do is pose and flex and all this sort of stuff. And so that's out there in the world too. How does one reconcile those two things? How does, you know, you know what I mean? When you're let's say, like you had mentioned, Ivan, a young gay man, and you see these type of, you know, really super idolized versions of the gay man, and then you see a bear. I mean, how what advice would you give to somebody that kind of is saying, you know, well, where do I fit in, and what is it really that I find, you know, intriguing? So, what would you tell me through your experiences? What would you say?
I think through that aspect, again, it would definitely come a lot with your self-acceptance. Yeah. You know, that has a lot to do with how you're going to manage not just your relationship with yourself, but your relationship with others, and starting with your image toward others. You know, I can honestly tell you, again, reading it back to my personal experience, I can honestly say that there's been several times where even I myself don't fit in with the bear culture. And I'll be honest, I've had those thoughts myself too, but it's not so much because I don't fit every single angle of the bear culture, but I told myself, okay, what bigger part of me does fit bear culture, and I worked with that. Right. You know, which at least for me personally is the way I plan to inspire others to actually do what we're doing for our community. That's been my biggest angle in this journey. You know, as far as not being a glam bear or a muscle bear, I told myself, okay, I can work toward that. But at this time right now, I think it's very, very, very important for individuals to reflect on the good positive things that they can bring to the table, starting with their personality.
Right.
No, excuse the word, no F giving. You know, who cares about what people say about
Zero fucks to give.
Adversity, unfortunately, is gonna be out there regardless. Shoot, it's getting stronger even right now. Yeah. So I think that's what a lot of us, including myself, are using that as my knight in shining armor to say, you know what, I'm here and I'm not going nowhere. You know, I'm gonna continue to be myself and inspire that confidence with others who have even come up to me and said, well, I want to join, but I'm not a bear. Mm-hmm. And I said, you don't have to be a bear. It's okay. And I think that's also maybe like we were thinking about that with Mr. Bertopia, because we've had Mr. Bertopia conversations with him individually. He says, maybe we just shot ourselves in the foot by calling ourselves a bear group, but that's where it stemmed from. Yeah. You know, so the fact that we're a bear organization, it's not limited to just being for bears, and we always let everybody know that. So, I mean, with that being said, just me, it's very understanding to see where individuals would catch themselves and be like, how do I identify into this or not? But we let everybody identify as comfortable within their skin as they feel to identify.
I think that's so cool that this grew out of the need from the glam gaze, the built bod gaze, and everything, for the need to have a culture, a subculture, and now everybody wants to be a part of your subculture.
Yeah, pretty much. And that was one of the things that I kind of was going to touch on right now, with how we reconcile like the super built muscle bear kind of image, or even not even bear, like even like muscular, with the, you know, regular run-of-the-mill dad bod, hairy bearded guy, you know. And that's something that I kind of ask myself often. It's like, you know, do people really like bears, or do they just like muscle guys with beards, you know? And I mean, a case can be made for both. I mean, I don't think that there's anything wrong with saying, ooh, I like muscle bears. I mean, because that can be your thing, you know. That might not be my thing, you know, but of course, who's not gonna like to see a ripped guy, you know, in a Speedo, like walking down the beach, you know? But again, I think it has a lot to do more with like your own self-perception. Like, there's nothing wrong with being different. There's nothing wrong with like looking differently, you know, as long as you like accept that this is who you are. And you have many other things, you know, a little bit about like labeling, you know, like, am I a bear? Am I a glam bear? Am I a muscle bear? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you are, at the end of the day, you're your own person, you know. The fact that people associate you with a specific type of group, I mean, because that's on them, you know. But as long as you're confident and you're comfortable with what you bring to the table, and like Christian said, you know, your different skills, your different abilities, I mean, there's room for everybody. Right?
Yeah, and a voice to be, you know, heard within a group. I mean, that's part of why we all join groups. I used to say jokingly back when we were trying to start a bear group in the 90s, I'd say, being a bear is a state of mind. Exactly. And when you reach that state of mind, which you gave me an idea for you guys, you all should have like yoga bear. Channel your inner bear. Right. But yeah, I mean, it really is about that. It's how one identifies individually, but then you realize that there are people that are kind of on the same vibe as you. It doesn't have to be the exact same experience, the exact same sexual proclivity, or the exact same fetish or whatever. It's the vibe. It's the state of mind. It's like, you know what, I'm cool with all of this. And I think that the gay community's strength has always been that. I mean, you know, we make a lot of fun of this now about the LGBTQIA plus. I said, we're going to run out of letters. We're going to run out of letters. But we have this, that's what I was trying to get to, is that we have this need to kind of say we're a huge group, and yes, but you know, I think there's also strength. We're not dividing ourselves up. We're saying you can be anything and be part of our group.
And be part of the group.
And so I think that it's an actual, and we were talking in this political times, I think that becomes even more important, because, you know, I was just doing a little bit of research for this episode, and, you know, bear groups are now rural bears, and there's farmer bears. I mean, and there's people
Cowboys.
Yeah, exactly. I went to a gay rodeo in the early 90s, and it opened my eyes to a whole different culture.
They're out there.
And it's all out there, and all of it is just a matter of you wanting to discover it. But it's all been done. It's all there for us to discover. Yeah. And so what's interesting is that it makes us stronger in so many different ways, because we're not saying that being being gay is any one thing. It's a million different things, and you can find your tribe within that million different things.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because right now you mentioned how we're inspiring others to join us. Just about 2-3 weeks ago, we had a sweetheart event at Epic where we had for Valentine's Day. We had like this bear couple, answering game questions, and then we have another non-bear couple, on stage, and it was just amazing how their answers. I'm like, you know what? They're practically the same, bear or not bear. And then on top of that, these kind of venues have inspired some of the drag pageantry, I guess you could say. She even came up to us after the show, and she says, "You guys have a Mr. Beartopia, but do you guys need a Mrs. Beartopia?" All right. I didn't think about it. Wow,
my mind is reeling at what that would look like. Mama Bear. I'll buy a ticket. I'll have to. Mama Bear.
On top of that, I don't know if you've also heard of those Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Those are those bears with the makeup and the nun.
The habit.
Yes.
They are phenomenal. I met them in Dallas. That was my first experience with some Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence from Dallas-Fort Worth, and they are phenomenal.
On roller skates, right?
Yes. And if we thought bears were welcoming, these sisters were just 10 times more welcoming.
I mean, that brings to mind, like, the bearded lady in the circuses,
Yeah.
Or those early,
awesome.
adaptations of a drag queen, but the beer community, not beer. Sorry.
Well, and that's the thing is that I think that one of the things that the gay community, gay and lesbian community appreciates more than anything else is creativity.
Oh yeah,
and genuineness. I mean, the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence did wonders for putting gay visibility on the map, and they do wonderful works in different communities. And so, absolutely. I mean, I'd love to see a chapter here in El Paso.
That's why I've been trying to get the Dallas Sisters out here, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there. I'll be actually myself with another colleague from our group to Texas Bear Roundup. So they have that every year in March. So we have over 3,000 bears show up to that event.
And here in El Paso, I could become Sister Mother Putissima. Sister Mother Putissima.
They get creative with their names.
Absolutely. I mean, but the thing is that all of those things are joyful,
right?
But they also, in their own way, are a form of political resistance, which I'm all on board with. So,
and not to mention they help promote mental health.
Yeah.
And that's the ultimate goal for everybody, to be able to feel like they can be whatever.
That's right.
Yeah, and ending the idea of hating yourself, as well, because when you are being told, oh, you don't look the right way, or you're carrying too much weight, or those kinds of things, that can be real negative to somebody's psyche. So this is like a celebration of it.
Right.
I'm all for it.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to what you all have next. Tell us about what your immediate plans are, and if somebody wanted to find out more about the organization, how they might be able to do that, or what your events they might attend in the next couple of months. Tell us about
Absolutely.
that.
You can definitely look us up again on Facebook, Instagram, and we also have Blue Sky. That's more of the recent one.
And it's Los Chuco
Bears.
With a Z.
With a Z.
Yes.
For Edge.
And on top of that, we are right now just working on another event that will be coming here to El Paso, courtesy of, again, our networking through the Rio Grande Valley Bears. And that one is more for HIV awareness. So we want to go ahead. Yeah, we'll definitely, more details to come on that. I really don't have much background on it just yet, since it's still in its beginning stages. And any immediate events coming up, in March, about 2 more weeks on the 22nd, at the new Cocktails, Bears are invading the new bar.
Oh, good. Excellent.
So we'll be at Cocktails, and of course our awesome go-go team is going to be there. We have a go-go team actually as well.
Oh, cool.
So the Bears said, you know what, can we form a go-go team? You guys form it. Let's go for it.
How fun, yeah.
I know.
They have their bear captain, and they manage amazing. So again, they inspire the bear positivity, body positivity, and we'll be there. And for the rest of the year right now, we're just planning for Mr. Beartopia in September. It's September 12th through the 14th.
Excellent. Well, make sure to keep us informed and to come back. We'll be glad to.
We'll be able to help promote whenever you all have any other events or if there's any other information you want to get out there. But for today, thank you all very much. Christian, Ivan, thank you for joining us. A big bear hug to both of you and to everyone of your members. Thank you
so
all
much.
very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife.
So, what did you all think about learning about the bear community? Ceci, you're a little bit newer to this than Izzy and I are, so what did you think?
It was good. It was very heartwarming to see that it's not just a party organization, that they're concerned with engaging with the community and making people feel included and part of a group. That to me is, I think, the ultimate goal. And I think that's what makes the gay community so awesome in general. Just, because they are inclusive of everybody, because for so many years they've been excluded.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
What did you think? I mean, as a lifelong bear lover, and I don't know that if you've been to any of their events, but would you be considering going to one, or tell me a little bit about what you thought about the organization itself?
Oh yeah, now I'm stoked to go to one of their events. I mean, I love bears. I always have. I've always had a little penchant for them, and so now watching their brotherhood, their broness, it kind of makes it really great. Also, the idea that everybody's included is really cool, because oftentimes, you always think, oh, I have to look so good, I have to look a certain way, I have to be polished. And then this seems a little more relaxed. And I think that is really good for me. At this point in my life, I don't want to be so polished all the time. I want to be a little rough around the edges. That's good.
Well, the bear community is a good place for that. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
But no, my point is that I think that they are really kind of a little bit just more natural, that they're not necessarily so caught up in kind of the affectation or the brand names or any of that sort of thing. It's just kind of just good old-fashioned camaraderie. It's just a nice group to be a part of and to have as an option for people to socialize and to kind of open some doors for themselves in this community.
They've really come into their own, because now, with the popularity of beards in general and, just hairiness, I think, like unkempt men, it's always been attractive to me, but now, like, I think in general people are coming forward and noticing that they've been sleeping on this little sect of men, just across the board. Yeah,
and it goes on. There are otters, there's bears, there's foxes, there's silver foxes. It just goes on and on and on. There's a menagerie of men for you all out there. So
absolutely.
please.
One of them that I thought from the documentary that we all watched, that was really good, that I hadn't thought about it and I thought was really clever, was the black bear.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, well, that's true. The bear community, when it first started, probably did not have a lot of black men in it. And of course, the black men can be bears too.
Yes, they can.
In fact, anybody can be a bear. So, this is Queer Onda. My name is Ted.
My name is Izzy.
And I'm Ceci.
And we're telling you all to get berry and
Got no onda, queers. We'd love to hear from you. Email us at feedback@queeronda.com or visit our website and leave a comment. www.queeronda.com. That's www.queeronda.com.